This is Cashing Out on VSiN, the sports betting network.
All right, welcome into Cashing Out with Joe Ceraulo, taking you through the late hours of your Thursday night into your weekend, or at least my weekend, into Friday morning here on The Big Show. We've got a fun one lined up for you. Ryan McIntyre, our buddy from the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, is going to join us here shortly, coming up in about 15 minutes or so. We're going to pick his brain on the Final Four, see what he likes, sides, totals, you name it. A little bit more of an expansive player prop market here in the Final Four. Maybe we'll see if he likes anything in that market. Tourney Most Outstanding Player. You folks know where I stand there. I like Walter Clayton Jr. a lot to win that award. Flag comes with no value. He's, barely a longer shot than even money. But this Florida team looks like the real deal. And Clayton sitting there at 4-1. I'd rather bet that than the Gators to win it all at 3-1. Because whenever the Gators have run into a little bit of trouble this tournament, and even though sometimes part of the reason they're in trouble is because of Clayton's turnovers early in games, well, who's there to clean up the mess and bail them out? Walter Clayton Jr. The former Iona Gale played for Rick Pitino at Iona. Come on, Slick Rick, you couldn't get him to New York City. Who would rather, let's be honest with ourselves, folks, who would rather be in Gainesville, Florida than New York City? Especially as a young kid in his early 20s playing college basketball. Come on, it's the Mecca. It's Madison Square Garden. Walter, could have used you. Needed one guy to hit a three against Coach Cal in Arkansas in that round of 32 game. I can't wait for this Gators game against Auburn. And you folks know where I stand. There's no surprises at this juncture. But Janai Broome came out earlier on Thursday and said he has, quote, no limitations regarding his elbow. No limitations. Looked pretty limited when he was grabbing rebounds with one arm off of free throws at the end of that Elite Eight game against Michigan State. Looked pretty limited to me. Looks pretty limited when you're not practicing in full the week going into a Final Four. That looks pretty limited to me. I don't know. I mean, of course he's not going to come out there and say, oh yeah, I feel like crap. That ain't going to happen. But I think he is absolutely more limited than either he or Bruce Pearl would ever dream of letting on. We've actually seen a little bit of movement in Auburn's direction at one shop in town. Over at the South Point, Tigers are catching 2. Still 2.5. This has lived at 2.5 all week. The exception is the Wynn. There's a 3 at the Wynn. There's a 2 at South Point. It's 2.5 everywhere else. There was a 3 at Stations yesterday. It's back down to 2.5, so that's a half-tick move in Auburn's direction. Duke Houston, 5s across the board. I see a 5.5 at MGM. Was hoping to get a 6. Like the song Holding Out for a Hero, I'm holding out for a 6. Just talking about spreads, nothing else. I don't think I'm going to get that with the Cougs. Might have to go take that stray 5.5 out there. We'll see. I'm going to wait up until tip-off on the side because my best bet for the game, it's already locked in, is the under 136.5. We'll see how that total's moved throughout the week. But as far as Florida and Auburn are concerned, I don't believe Janai Broome for a minute. I think that elbow is far more limiting than he or Bruce Pearl would ever let on. And I think the Gators are going to exploit that. I think the Gators are going to make the likes of a Tahad Pettiford and the likes of a Denver Jones and a Chaz Baker-Massara and a Dylan Caldwell beat them. And at the end of the day, I just don't think Auburn's supporting cast is deep enough to do that. Look, some of these guys are studs. We've talked about that. Tahad Pettiford I love, and I guess he's embraced that role as a sixth man. You can argue he's their second best player. Certainly scorer. I don't think there's much disputing that. Pettiford's a stud. He's a beast. I love that kid. Is he going to take over and go shot for shot with Clayton Jr.? There's a 15% chance he could. I'm going to say he doesn't. Total, flat 160 at most shops. Stray 159.5, stray 160.5 out there as well. Lean, that's tough because with Broome, that gets tricky. I lean over. Obviously, they went over in Auburn when Florida beat them 90-81. Not going to get a play out of me on the total here. I'm just going to stick to the Gators, laying the 2 and a hook, and that's going to be that. Now, we already locked in the total. Duke, Houston. Mentioned that. More on that to come. Quickly, Golden State and the Lakers going into the fourth quarter. It's 88-77. The Warriors, 1.5 dogs at tip. 11-point lead for Steph Curry and company going into the fourth quarter. They're laying 7.5 on the live line there. 7.5 point favorites. That live total still where it was at halftime, 221 and a hook. LeBron's up to 22. Last time we checked in at halftime, he had 8. He's got 22 points, 7 assists. Lucas, 17.7 boards, 5 assists. Reeves, 11.6 boards. Hachimura with 18. The bench still doing nothing. Just 7 bench points for the Lakers. Kuminga's up to 14 alone off the bench for Golden State. They've got 20 out of their bench. Steph, he's hit a couple threes. He's got 28, 6 assists. Podziemski is 22, no longer the leading scorer. Steph really turned it on that third quarter. 16 points in the third quarter out of Steph. Dubs by 11. Currently 44-31 in the 5 seed. The Lakers are back in the 3 seed. They've jumped Denver with this little losing skid for the Nuggets at 46-29. 29-9 at home. In jeopardy of dropping their 10th home game of the year as Golden State takes a double-digit lead into the fourth quarter. Again, that live line, 7.5. Duke, Houston, back to the Final Four, back to San Antonio. Got 136.5, jumped on it. There are a couple 137s out there. Really surprises me. I'm seeing Stations in South Point, $137. Right here at Circa, it's 136. There is a 136.5. If this is correct, Caesars has 135.5. So Caesars would be a half a point to a point and a half lower than everywhere else. If these odds are spot on. Much more uniformity on the side. It's a 5 everywhere except MGM where it's 5.5. You folks know if I play it, I'm taking the points, but the total, the under, has already been played. I just think Kelvin Sampson is going to have his guys control the tempo. We played that sound clip earlier in the week. Best thing my guys do is play as a team. Call it cliche if you want. I don't really care if you want to call that cliche because it's true. This Houston Cougars squad embodies what it is to be a team. And these guys go after every loose ball and every rebound. And if someone messes up his assignment, they switch and they pick each other up. And they're not the most talented scoring bunch, although, hey, they're probably the best offensive team he's ever had there in H-Town. They could shoot from 3. They lack efficiency in terms of 2-point field goal percentage, but they shoot the 3 nice. They're a 3-and-D team, and they've got heart and hustle, and they could outwork anyone in the country. Will they outperform Duke at the end of the day? I don't know. Will they outwork Duke? I think so. And I think in outworking Duke, you control the tempo, you control the pace, you make sure it's your style of game. If Duke beats you at your style, you tip your cap to them, you move on to next season or your future, whatever it may hold. But I think Houston is going to make sure a little more of a veteran team than Duke. You know, this Duke team is pretty young. In today's age of NIL and transferring, a lot of these power conference teams, you know, the Auburns and such, a lot of these teams are built on veteran guys that started elsewhere. Duke, to their credit, they've got a couple transfers in there, but they've got quite a few freshmen. And that youth is great, and I love the way Shire recruits. It also might hurt them against Houston, against L.J. Cryer, and Milos Uzan, and Emmanuel Sharp, and Jawan Roberts. Roberts is going to have a big game. That's what I can tell you. And that's why Houston, I think of the 8 shortest shots on the tourney most outstanding player, I think half of them, I think 4 out of the 8 are Houston Cougars. Because that's the one team where it can be any guy any night. If it's Florida, it's Walter Clayton. If it's Auburn, it's Janai Broome. If it's Duke, it's Cooper Flagg. But if it's Houston, it could be any one of the 4 guys I just named. So I think the Houston Cougars, like what Kelvin Sampson said, the best thing they do is they play as a team. I think that team effort, these Cougars as a cohesive unit, are going to give Duke a major run for its money in this contest. And I think they're going to stay inside of 5.5 points. Again, going to wait for a 6. I'll see if I get one at the bar at tip-off. Maybe some late Duke money pours in and moves it just enough. But if not, I'll be taking the Cougars plus 5.5. Folks, good news. The VSiN Summer Special is here. From Augusta to the NFL Draft. The MLB season's underway. The NBA and NHL playoffs are around the corner. And hey, so is the Kentucky Derby in just about a month. That means VSiN Pros got you covered all summer long for just $59. Sign up now. You can get expert picks, including all of our best bets for the Masters next weekend, exclusive betting splits from DraftKings and Circa, 24/7 video access on the new and improved VSiN Watch app, plus our Kentucky Derby betting guide and the NFL betting guide when it drops this summer, setting you up for a winning football season. Every sport, every edge, one price. Get full VSiN Pro access now through August 1st for just $59 at VSiN.com/subscribe. That's VSIN.com/subscribe. Ryan McIntyre, our friend from the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, going to join us shortly on the other side. We'll dive into these two Final Four games. We've already got some hypothetical matchup lines. How about that? Duke laying 4.5 to Florida, 5.5 to Auburn. Houston laying a point to Auburn. Should the Dogs prevail? Let's see what Ryan thinks about the Dogs barking in San Antonio. Up next, it's Cashing Out with Joe Ceraulo.
With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Welcome back to Cashing Out here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Cashing Out continues here on VSiN with me, Joe Ceraulo, taking you through the late hours of your Thursday night into your Friday morning, into the weekend. I can't wait. We're going to have Final Four basketball in San Antonio. Who better to welcome into the show to break it all down with than our friend from the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, Ryan McIntyre, joining us here on the Progressive Guest Line. And Ryan, we've got a lot of Final Four hoops to get to, but before we do that, I was really praising the NIT earlier in the program. I thought this year's tournament was one of the best in recent seasons, and Chattanooga emerging victorious over UC Irvine, the comeback win. They trailed almost the entirety of the second half, and then they force OT, win it in OT. What was your take on that game and that tournament as a whole, my friend?
Honestly, it was the best NIT I can remember, to your point, Joe. I thought the games were very well played. I thought it was well coached. There was no really opt-outs either. And I think maybe a little bit with some of the teams that may have been in the NIT going over to the Crown, opened up a couple more mid-major spots. And, you know, it got me thinking, everybody's talking about the lack of Cinderella here. Maybe the Cinderella would have been a Chattanooga or Irvine this year. Because in my opinion, after watching those two teams for the last 2 weeks, they could have won a game or two in the NCAA tournament with the right draw.
My man, I said the same exact thing. And I didn't give Chattanooga enough credit because I said, look, the SoCon, it's a one-bid league. And then I'm thinking about it after the words came out of my mouth. Sometimes it's a problem of mine. The words come out before I think. And I'm thinking about that conference, and I'm like, you know, Furman is always frisky. Wofford has been good in the past. This year, I mean, they covered against Tennessee, but they were never really live to win. Greensboro, East Tennessee State, I'm like, you know what? Maybe the SoCon could have gotten two teams. You know, I made the case on the program. I said San Diego and Irvine both deserved a spot. And I knew it wasn't going to happen, but I thought they both deserved a spot. I thought an argument could have been made for North Texas and or UAB, but the American, to me, should always get a second team in there. I want more of these guys and less 6-12 SEC teams like Texas and Oklahoma. What do you think about that?
100%. And you know what's really annoying too, Joe, is we have a playing game. Like, we have playing games in Dayton. Why can't we get more teams that, like, usually Irvine led the country in road games this year. Nobody will play them in Irvine. And honestly, no Power 4 schools or Power 5, however many powers are now, won't schedule any of these really good mid-majors because they're afraid that they're going to be on the ticker that they got beat. So I'm with you, man. The SoCon over the years has always delivered in March. Furman winning a game. Wofford has gone on a run. ETSU, Greensboro, they've all been chippy. They're always a chippy 12, 13, even 14 seed in the tournament. We need to find a way to get some of these mid-majors that win 28, 29 games back into the dance.
Yeah, absolutely. And Irvine had 29 wins. I mean, come on, give me a break. Regular season wins, 29 of them. And to not get in is despicable. You know, these teams, you look at the schedules in the SWAC and the South. Houston Christian played like 7, Power 5 conference teams because that's who they're scheduling. The Houston Christians, the Prairie View A&Ms. Go play in Irvine. You'll probably get your ass beat if you've got the nerve to go out to California. I love it. SoCon, by the way, now they're A-10, but Davidson with Steph Curry, they were SoCon when they went on, what was it, the Elite 8, Ryan? Was it Final Four or was it the Elite 8 with Steph?
Elite 8. They lost to Kansas in that thriller. Ironically, the last time we got all these 1 seeds, and the Final Four was in San Antonio, so kind of a trip down memory lane there for the audience.
I love that, and a beautiful segue and tie-in into these Final Four games. So let's get into it. All 4 1 seeds, one side of the bracket in all SEC contests. Florida, Auburn. Seems like everyone and their mother this week has been on the Gators, and that's frankly starting to scare me a little. Ryan, what say you about this contest?
Joe, early in the week, I think I did like Florida, but and I even talked to Hoops Peterson, and he threw me the ball, and I said, I like Florida right now. But the more I went back and watched that first meeting, Elijah Marta was a game time scratch with an injury, and Auburn just didn't play very well that day. They had won 13 in a row. They kind of got caught sleepwalking, I think, a little bit, let their guard down. This is when Auburn was playing out of their minds for the first 3 months of the season. And I went back and watched how they beat him. They just made a bunch of threes. They made 13 threes. Walter Clayton, I know he's played at a very high level. He was making shots from the logo. I think that Bruce Pearl, who is also Todd Golden's mentor, they're very close. Stephen Pearl and Todd Golden are best friends. I think he's going to challenge his guards to really make this game physical with the Florida guards. All I've heard all week is how good these Florida guards. Well, the Auburn guards are pretty damn good too. I think Mazzara, Kelly, Denver Jones, and then the X factor, I think, is Pettiford off the bench, who's been big in these big games. I think Auburn's going to get him in a rematch here. So the more and more I think about it, I'm going to take the old man, Bruce Pearl, over Todd Golden in a rematch. And it is weird looking at the line here. February 8th, when they played at the Jungle, Auburn was laying 11. Now they're a 2.5-point dog, less than 60 days later?
Yeah, man, it's the professor versus the pupil. I love that Pearl Golden angle. Yep. Look, in-game coaching, give me Bruce Pearl. Absolutely. I think Florida's the more talented team. I just think that they're deeper offensively. And when you brought up a great point, talking about the guards of Auburn, they're athletic as hell. I don't think that they're as good pure scorers as what the Gators have when you get past Broom. And then the guy who I gave flowers to 10 minutes ago, right before you hopped on, I love Tahad Pettiford. Him in that 6-man role, he is a great scorer. Baker Mazzara, Denver Jones, they're streaky. They leave a little something offensively to be desired, but they are physical. And listening to you talk about that, Ryan, makes me wonder, how much of a role are the refs going to play in this? Because if the refs, I feel like, back off and let these guys play, that is a big advantage to Auburn. But if the refs are calling ticky-tack stuff, then I think that's how the Gators would get in control.
I completely agree. Both games. We'll touch on the other one here in a minute. The whistle is going to be pivotal. And I listened to Bruce Pearl's press conference earlier today. They tried to run and gun with, or attempted to run with Florida the first time and kind of got run out with all those threes and the high variance. I think they're going to play more through Broom. I know he's banged up, but he's been banged up since January. He's got 6 days. They're going to shoot him up with God knows what drugs. I think he'll be fine. I worry about them on the short term Monday night if they get there. But I think Broom will play well. I love Cardwell and just this physical Auburn bunch. And Bruce Pearl strikes me as, like, if I want to bet on a coach as a dog, Bruce Pearl's the kind of rah, 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 us against the world type. I mean, he was playing the underdog role against Sparty, and they were 6-point favorite.
Yeah, he's a character. Look, I've interviewed Bruce before, man. He is a fun guy to talk to. He is a character, Bruce Pearl. How about the other game, huh? Kelvin Sampson. Talk about characters. Sampson's not as rah-rah as Pearl, but there's something about his personality. I'd run through a wall for that guy. What do you think this Houston Cougars team's got in store against Duke?
Yeah, he's not a rah-rah guy, but his team plays like a rah-rah, and they'll run through a brick wall for that old man, and he has these guys playing at a high, high level. I think I know everybody's really high on Duke, rightfully so. The Ken Pom metrics, highest-rated team in 10 years since the 97 Duke team and all that good stuff. They're the number one offensive efficiency team, but I think people don't realize how good Houston is. They've won 30 out of 31, not in a mid-major league, in the Big 12. They've won at Kansas. They've won at Arizona. They went and beat Gonzaga in the round of 32, a top 10 KenPom team. They went on the road this weekend, beat Purdue and Tennessee in 2 road games out there in Indianapolis. And this is also a revenge game. I know a lot of the 3 freshmen weren't there for Duke last year, but with the way that game ended, Jamal Shedd going down, Tugler wasn't even healthy for that game. He was inactive because he got an injury in February. He's going to be the one tasked to slow down Cooper Flagg. You're not going to shut him down, but you could slow him down and make life difficult. I think Houston is underrated here once again. I think they're going to beat Duke because they're going to drag the game into the mud, just like Clemson, who happens to be the slowest ACC team. That's how they beat Duke, limit possessions, make some shots from the perimeter with those senior guards, Cryer, Uzon, Sharp, and I think Jawan Roberts makes enough of those left-handed floaters over Malawach here to get Houston across the finish line.
Wow. Ryan with bigger you-know-whats than me. I'm taking the points. He's saying Houston's going to win the game. Well, I'll tell you what. Your Auburn-Houston moneyline parlay, you can get longer than 6-1 out there, if that's what you think the national title game is going to be. I love this Cougars team. After hearing you speak about them, I'm ready to run through a wall, Ryan. I've got the under as my best bet here. I'm waiting until game time, but I'm going to be taking the points. I'm just trying to get the best number possible if some late Duke money pours in. My man, appreciate the time. Thanks so much for hopping on.
I appreciate it, Joe. Enjoy the madness.
Our buddy Ryan McIntyre from the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Always a blast breaking down March Madness with Ryan and the guys from the network. Folks, put your skills to the test in the all-new Hoops and Horses Pick'em Challenge. How about that? Brought to you by our friends over at FirstBet. Sign up for free-to-play, VSiN.com/hoopsandhorses, and make your picks for Saturday's marquee horse races and basketball matchups. Top pickers will receive FirstBet vouchers you can use to bet upcoming races on FirstBet, including the Kentucky Derby, Saturday, May 3rd. From the hardwood to the home stretch. Play now at VSiN.com/hoopsandhorses. Phenomenal stuff from Ryan. I am amped up and so ready for this Final Four in San Antonio. More hoops, not horses, but more baseball. Up next, it's Cashing Out with Joe Ceraulo.
Welcome back to Cashing Out here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Cashing Out continues here on VSiN with me, Joe Ceraulo, taking you through the late hours of your Thursday night, right up into your Friday morning here on the program. How about that terrific stuff from our buddy Ryan McIntyre, co-host alongside our friend Colby Dant of the College Experience over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Those two do an incredible job. Their show is so good together, it makes me sad that the college hoop season is ending because I love the way that those guys break down pretty much all 364 teams. And if you want to hear from a guy who's going to break down 364 teams, well, Greg Hoops Peterson joining the show in a little bit, about 45 minutes away or so. Hoops will be on with us, breaking down the Final Four. Also, a big baseball guy, and we've got quite the slate on a Friday on the Diamond. Going to jump into that here shortly. Make sure you get involved with the program. Tweet at us at the Joe Ceraulo, at VSiN Live. Make sure you follow at Joe Ceraulo on Instagram as well. Behind the scenes footage of the show everywhere you go. We've got some tweets at VegasAl31. Tweets at the Joe Ceraulo. Milwaukee cashes tomorrow, going Rangers minus $1.25. You know, we touched on that game earlier in the program in the opening hour, briefly, with our guest, Michaela Bennett, who was terrific joining us. And the Rangers, her pick to win the AL West, laying 125 on the money line at home against Tampa. Tampa team that is yet to play away from their temporary minor league home, Steinbrenner Field, home of the Yankees spring training and minor league affiliates down there. Yeah, I like it. I think that price is pretty much across the board. I'm seeing, minus 122 marginally, 3 cents better. But yeah, that price pretty consistent. And I like what I've seen out of the Rangers thus far. They made us doubt the Red Sox, I think, that opening series. Take 3 out of 4 from Boston, and the Red Sox take 2 out of 3 from Baltimore following a 1-4 start to the year. They win back-to-back games to conclude things in Camden. Yeah, Vegas Al. I like that play. Always love Vegas Al's tweets. How about our buddy at Nickel Frit 1375 tweets at the Joe Ceraulo. You think the Marlins have any shot tomorrow with the Braves scuffling off a cross-country trip at 2-1? The Braves might be a dumpster fire and might be a disaster, and Jurickson Profar is suspended 80 games, and we're waiting to see if there's a jail sentence coming up for his PED usage. No, I don't think the Marlins at 2-1 are live. I know Max Meyer had a good first start of the year. What was that, against Pittsburgh in that opening series? 26-year-old kid, 5 2/3 against the Pirates, 2 runs, 1 earned, 7 Ks. Good outing. More Ks than I'd expect out of Meyer. I don't think the Marlins get there on the road. Don't forget, the Marlins, 3 of their 4 wins against Pittsburgh, all 3 of their wins in that series, were of the walk-off variety. Now, I can tell you one of 2 things. You could look at that and say, oh, they're clutch. You could look at that and say, oh, they're a little lucky. And David Bednar just got demoted to AAA because he's a shell of who he was 2, 3, 4 years back. I choose the latter when I look at the Marlins. The Braves might be 0-7. The Braves might stink on ice, but Spencer Schwellenbach's on the bump. We're bringing Schwellen back, baby. I love this kid. I thought, preseason, we talked about it. We profiled the Braves' final week of spring training leading up to opening day. Actually, it was the week of opening day. Opening day was on a Thursday. Earlier that week, we previewed the Braves and the Padres going into their season on doubleheaders. Schwellenbach opened up. He looked sensational in San Diego. 6 innings, 1 hit. Only downer was we took over 4.5 Ks. He's sitting there at 4 strikeouts after 4 innings of work. And his last 2 innings, he doesn't get one. It was a plus money play, plus $1.25. I tweeted that one out. It was a Saturday, so no cashing out with myself, with Joe Ceraulo. I believe Hoops Peterson filled in that night. But tweeted that play out. Felt great. Didn't get there. He still shoved. Strikeout stuff wasn't there, but 1 hit, 6 innings, Braves lose at 1-0. Bullpen gives up 1. Schwellenbach's sensational. And if he went 6 shutty against the Padres, I got to imagine the Braves aren't going to get shut out against Max Meyer and the Marlins in their home opener. I hope, and I hate the Atlanta Braves. There is no love lost between myself and the Atlanta Braves. But I hope these guys have a pulse on their home opener. Their hitters ain't hitting. That's problematic. I don't want to overreact to batting averages 7 games into the year. I think, frankly, that's a silly, stupid thing to do. But among guys who qualify, their team leader in batting average is a $188, Marcell Ozuna. No one's got multiple home runs yet. They only have 4 as a team through 7 games. Austin Riley is 3 for 27. Albies, 5 for 27. Michael Harris, 4 for 25. Matt Olson, 4 for 22. Jared Kelenic, 3 for 20. Ozuna, 3 for 16. It's a bleep show. I guess they caught Profar juicing because he was the only guy hitting 200. He was 3 for 15, hitting 200. My goodness. Yeah, not good for Atlanta. Not good at all. In fact, our incredible producer, Jared Moore, has posed the question to me. Have the Braves already played themselves out of the division? I won't say that. I refused to bet Atlanta to win the division preseason. This thing was a 3-horse race. You're not going to find me taking the favorite when Atlanta, the Phillies, and the Mets are all between, even money and plus 250 or so. So you weren't going to find me backing the Braves, but they've played their way into the second odds, and I was just about to look those up, so thank you to our terrific team in the back pulling these graphics up. Phillies are the new favorites. They're now 5-1 after the win against Colorado, plus $1.30. Atlanta, plus 180, still a shorter shot than the 3-3 Mets. That's very interesting to me. I'm surprised that the Braves are a shorter shot than the Mets. But, this crap doesn't matter, right? Plus 130, the Mets, I think, are bettable at plus 230. I'd wait for the Phillies to hit a losing streak before betting them. I'm not going to take the Phils plus $1.30. They're going to hit a losing streak. You're going to get something more like, 175, 180. And I don't hate going in that direction. Gun to my head preseason, probably would have leaned Phillies in that division, but such a toss-up. The Braves had two big question marks, and they still don't have those guys. So, that's still to come. And when I say those guys, Acuna, Strider, arguably the most important pieces of their respective rotation and lineup. So, that's kind of a big deal that those guys will be back. But Atlanta doesn't have a pulse. They had a pulse last year, even after Acuna went down. They don't have a pulse this season. The fact that no one is hitting higher than $1.88 in that lineup is really damning. That said, I think they beat the Marlins. Can't bet it, though. Can't lay 240 with this team. Let's see if Schwellenbach has any props up yet. That intrigues me. It is early. Schwellenbach's K-prop, 6.5. I know the Padres are a really low strikeout team, but it's tough for me to get there. 6.5. And even the earned runs, I want to look 2.5 earned runs. It's 1.5 over under. And I might go under 1.5 earned runs on Schwellenbach. Problem is, the guy goes so deep into games, he's so economical that he could go 7 innings, 2 earned, and that's a fantastic start, and you lose your earned run prop. Now, the outs recorded prop, I'd love to take him over 17.5. It's 18.5, plus $1.60 to the over. But 18.5, second start of the season? That's dangerous territory you're flirting with there. I don't know if I can get there. I'm curious, and this is typically only a market last year I saw at DraftKings, and I'm curious, and Jared, if you have the answer to this, please let me know. Last year, DraftKings introduced a market of team to not bat in the bottom of the ninth, and it was always a better price than the money line because you're not laying the run line, but you're saying they're going to win it without extra innings, and that intrigues me. I don't know if I've seen that market up on DraftKings yet this season. Let me see. Oh, there we go. To bat in the. So if you say Atlanta will not bat in the bottom of the ninth, you go from minus 240 to minus $1.55. It's still juicy laying 55 cents with them, but you're shaving off almost a full buck. You're shaving off, 85 cents? By saying instead of Braves money line, Braves to not bat bottom of the ninth. That's going to be something we pay attention to. I should have gone there with the Dodgers in that series finale against Atlanta instead of although, you know what? It didn't matter. They won in a walk-off. So it wouldn't have mattered anyway. I would have lost less money. That's how it would have. No, actually, I would have lost more because I laid the run line. Yeah, either way. Made it all back on the Astros against Minnesota in the Twins home opener. That much I know. Folks, take VSiN with you anywhere, anytime. Become a VSiN Pro subscriber today and stay connected to the action wherever you go with the new and improved VSiN Watch app. It's available on your phone, tablet, and smart TV. With the VSiN Watch app, you get 24/7 live access to our audio and video, replays of your favorite shows like Cashing Out with Joe Ceraulo, big screen streaming straight to your smart TV, and more. So watch VSiN anywhere, anytime. Download the VSiN Watch app today. Up next, we're bringing it back. My favorite segment, your favorite segment, More On or Moron, right here on Cashing Out with Joe Ceraulo.
Welcome back to Cashing Out here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Cashing Out continues with me, Joe Ceraulo, taking you through the late hours of your Thursday night into Friday morning here on the program. It's been a blast so far. Some great guests, some great games, took us through the end of regulation and overtime at Hinkle Fieldhouse, the NIT championship game. What a blast. Congrats to the Chattanooga Mocs, your 2025 NIT champs. That NIT was a hell of a tournament this year. Again, two best NITs I can remember recent years. This one and the one some years back at MSG might have been 2022. It was, in fact, 2022. I was living in the city at the time, in New York City. It was still at MSG back then, the semifinals. Final four was Bonaventure, Xavier, A&M, Washington State. Believe Xavier beat Washington State in the championship game. Them or A&M, but Xavier beat Bonaventure in the semis, won it all. That was a terrific NIT. Had the likes of Oklahoma, Colorado, Virginia, great basketball. This NIT right there with it. More mid-majors, less power conference teams, but great basketball. And I walk away from this NIT, and I know our buddy Ryan McIntyre, who joined the show from the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, shares the sentiment. UC Irvine belonged in March Madness. Chattanooga belonged in March Madness. Another team from the American, be it North Texas, be it UAB, belonged in March Madness. Didn't need Texas, Oklahoma, San Diego State. Didn't need that. Needed more of this, more of what we saw in the NIT. Folks, as promised, because you know here at Cashing Out, our slogan is promises made, promises delivered. As promised, we are reviving one of the best segments in the, what are we at, 7-month history of Cashing Out with Joe Ceraulo. Now, the segment was never killed. It was never squashed. It was just on a brief hiatus. Our incredible producer, Jared Moore, was filling in for about a week and a half on the terrific morning show, VSiN by the Books, with Dave Ross and Jensen Lewis. But Jared's back, and so is one of our favorite segments, More On or Moron. Jared Moore, our incredible producer, has got 3 takes. We're going to see if Moore is, in fact, onto something, or if he's a moron, and that's, why he doesn't have a mic. Let's see what the first take is from Jared. More on or moron? The Yankees team total is an auto bet regardless of the opponent and the opposing pitcher. Ooh. I thought this was going to go in a totally different direction, so I'll give Jared credit. I thought he was going to say the Yankees are an auto bet, and I was going to call him a moron because the Yankees are not an auto bet, especially because they're so heavily juiced more often than not. But that's not the prompt, is it? The Yankees team total. Let's see, is that up yet? Yankees team total for their game against Pittsburgh. Max Fried, Mitch Keller. Team totals, there we go. 4.5. And they're playing the Pirates? It's that low? Yeah, I think Jared Moore is onto something. I think the Yankees team total is a rock-solid play on a night-to-night basis. Now, I'm not saying, and I don't think Jared is echoing this sentiment either, neither of us are saying go blind bet the Yankees team total every night. No one is saying that. But more often than not, no pun intended there, more often than not, yes, the Yankees team total is a great approach. I mean, I'd be inclined, and look, Mitch Keller is a good pitcher. He's got good stuff. I don't trust this Pirates bullpen for squat. And frankly, I mean, look, if you get Keller for 3 and 5 innings, 3 and 6 innings, yeah, you tack on another 2. 4.5 is lower than I would assume against a team like the Pirates. I bet later on as they go deeper into the Pittsburgh rotation, Saturday, Sunday, you're going to see some 5.5s posted for the Yankees team total. Yeah, Yankees team total is a strong bet. Even when the Yankees are not a strong bet, because they're always going to be laying juice, almost always. Exceptions against, the Dodgers and teams of that caliber. But more often than not, they're going to be laying juice. And I think this team is prone to catching some L's this year. They were the beneficiary of a bad Brewers pitching staff. And it was an impressive sweep. I'm not going to take anything away from them. But the D-backs went into the Bronx, took 2 out of 3. So I don't think the Yankees are all that in a bag of chips. But I do think they can score. And I do think Jared Moore is onto something. Let's get to the second one. Jared Moore says, give me the 7.5 points with UCLA against UConn in the women's Final Four. And I say, only a moron would bet the Bruins against Gino and Paige and the Huskies in the women's Final Four. Look, Vegas gets this thing right more often than not with the women's game. It's chalky. And there's 1 2 seed in the Final Four, and that 2 seed is the odds-on favorite to cut down the nets at the end of this thing. UCLA has had a great season. I've also seen UCLA get waxed by USC. Now, I know that USC obviously doesn't have Juju, and that's a shame. And maybe you can argue they'd be in the Final Four if they did. I still don't know if they would have beaten UConn if they had Juju. I still would have picked UConn in that game. Not to win by the, monstrous amount that UConn won by in that Elite Eight contest against the Lady Trojans. But now with Juju not in the tournament, and we wish her all the best in her recovery. It was a gruesome injury. With Juju out of the tournament, UConn's got the best player in the tournament, and that's Paige Beckers. And UConn has someone who I'm going to declare the best coach in the tournament. And that is no disrespect to Dawn Staley at South Carolina. I love Dawn Staley. She is a sensational coach. She is perfect for this era of women's college basketball. But Gino Uriema is still the GOAT. And it's like, you could say Bill Belichick might not have been the best coach in the NFL in his last couple of seasons, but he was always still the GOAT. Gino's the Bill Belichick of women's college basketball. Dawn Staley might be, the Sean McVay, to put it in NFL terms, right? Shanahan, I want to compare Staley to someone who's got a ring, who's got a little bit of hardware. Sirianni, McVay, more likable than Sirianni. I'll go McVay. Well, what happened when Belichick and McVay played in a big game? Belichick got the best of them. I think we're going to get UConn and South Carolina in the championship game. I think it's going to be a hell of a game. I think Gino and this Huskies team, there's a reason that as the lone 2 seed in the Final Four, they're $1.60 favorites to cut down the nets. I don't know if I can get there on them just because of the price. If they were plus money, I'd have run to the counter already. But because of the price, I don't know if I can get there on it. I think UConn wins it all, and I think they beat UCLA by double digits. Give me the Lady Huskies. -7.5. Jared? It's a moron take. All right, let's go one more. We've got the Nuggets. We've got the Warriors. Little Friday night hoops action. And Jared says, I'll take the Nuggets on the money line against Golden State. Well, I'm looking at DraftKings right now, and this is interesting. Does Caesars need to be updated? According to VSiN.com, the Nuggets are 3-point dogs at Caesars, yet they are 2.5-point favorites at both DraftKings and MGM. So I don't know if that's just Caesars needs to be updated or what, or they need to adjust. But no, Jared, I think you're onto something. Back-to-back games for the Dubs, coming off a hard-fought, really impressive win at Crypto. Lakers, they were 29-9 at home straight up going into that. They were only favored by 1.5, practically a pick 'em. Warriors go in there, forget covering, they win the game outright. They pretty much went wire to wire on them, too. The Lakers were really never back in that game. I never saw that thing get closer than 7. So, hard-fought, tough game. It's a back-to-back. Yeah. The Nuggets have dropped some heartbreakers this week. I think Denver is poised for a win. And Golden State coming off a big win. Now look, Golden State wins the game. They got a chance to jump the Nuggets and go from the 5 to the 4. There's a good chance these two teams meet in the opening round of the playoffs. Now it's just a matter of home court advantage. Every game matters down the stretch here. That West, it is so stacked. Lakers sitting there in the 3 seed. Nuggets a game behind them. Actually, the Nuggets just jumped the Lakers. They have the same amount of losses, one more win. So you got the Nuggets 47-30 as the 3. Lakers 46-30 as the 4. Warriors 45-31 as the 5. I mean, that West is a gauntlet. And then you got Minnesota and Memphis and the Clippers all like a game behind Golden State. It is so damn tough, that Western Conference. I think Denver wins. Jokic coming off a 60-point triple-double, double overtime loss. And then the Nuggets rest everyone the next night. They lose to San Antonio. They open as 13.5-point favorites. They close as 2.5-point favorites. Jared Moore, you are on to something. Coming off a 2-game skid, I'm going to go with the Nuggets. Surprisingly, ever so short road favorites up in the Bay Area. I think you're on to something there. Not with UCLA's women's hoops team, though. Come on, UConn all day, 8 days a week. Gino and Paige. It's like those shirts, with the first names, like so-and-so and so-and-so. And it's Gino and Paige. Best coach, best player, Huskies, -7.5. Friday night, women's Final Four. It's a whole new hour of Cashing Out with Joe Ceraulo up next.